what I try to do for each student, and it comes in the form of suggestions and it also comes in the form of assignments, is to take something we're doing and attach it to a previous experience that they've had. This is a loam texture because it's a mixture of sand, silt, and clay. I need to have it be cohesive or I can't get riverbanks. Yet I need to have it erodible or I can't make riverbanks. And I need to have it variable or I won't get interesting features. Because I think by recalling the unstructured learning experience of the past and attaching it to the quasi-structured experience they're having in the course, that they glue those pieces together and it makes the learning objective more experiential and therefore better. The clay is there because the water was stable longer. The water was stable longer because it was previously saturated. And we begin to link processes. Look at this one. This is propagating. See how that fails? There. Another thing I try to do is attach something like a physical experiment. For example, we might be using settling tubes to look at the rate at which sedimentary particles fall. We may be looking at the differential behavior of heavy minerals moving in a fluid relative to light ones. We may be interested in windstorms as we model them in a tunnel. We may be looking at a riverscape that is being developed in front of their eyes. I'm always asking them to think about their original experiences. That is, did they ever see a flood? Did they ever see a channel being formed? Did they ever watch storm take away a berm on a beach? Did they ever experience a windstorm? And what I find is that most students after the first few seconds will say, yes, I did. And it was like this, but it's different. And then you get them talking about that. What's going on here?
Tributary?
It is a tributary. This is a top-down phenomenon in terms of the water, but it's a bottom-up phenomenon in terms of the valley generation. The chief learning objective is to have them encounter the material of the classroom with many of their senses. That is, they have to touch and pour and feel and react. A second objective is that they have to learn to work in groups. And I loosely form the groups, but I allow them to play different roles in the groups. Okay, who's keeping notes? Rachel? Head wall erosion. I'll provide the names for it, you make the observation. Always, when you have hard over soft, you get undercutting. Cataract development. Why is it softer underneath? The note taker, the engager, the number cruncher, everybody opts for different contributions to the group that they're working on. Another thing I like to do is sort of empower the students to take things in whatever schedule they like. At the beginning of every lab, there are 4 or 5 stations or activities that they have to do. And I usually have enough materials so that they can encounter them in any order they like. And that's part of the group process. They have to decide which to do first. And it gives them more of an ownership of the activity if they get to choose when to do it and how to tackle it. And I think that ownership is one of the keys to learning. Why is this fracture developing ahead of the river?
Saturated right in front of it.
At depth, it's saturated. So under here, the material's behaving, is saturating. It's allowing some granular adjustments to take place. So we're getting subsidence under the channel. Another learning objective in this class is so that they can learn to take the anarchy of pure experience and boil it down into description, and then even further, if necessary, into equations and mathematical relationships in the laboratory. I was talking to you about the so-called tractive force before. That's a pretty transient phenomenon, because either you have this sort of behavior where the water is pooled up, there isn't a lot of stress on the surface because there isn't much slope. Remember, it's slope times depth times the specific weight of water, which is a given here. So the transient part happens when you go from the pool of water
to the channel?
There's a continuum from the free-flowing engagement of material to the step-by-step description to the induction of realizing that there are general things happening, and then to the mathematical measurement.
The total mechanical force we have is simply the potential of the water up there. And look at this beautiful bar, sediment bar up there.
And then translating this into a scientific report is the ultimate objective, or a technical report. That is, they have to be able to back away and perhaps cast off much of what they did, but focus in on what went right, not necessarily on everything they did.
What do we have now here?
Whirlpool.
We have a whirlpool. That's called flow separation. And now you see the main thread of flow is going off in a different direction. Why would that be happening?
The examinations or the assessments of learning are always done in a generalized format. I will not ask them what happened on that particular afternoon, or how fast something settled, or what were the dominant processes occurring in the channel. What I'm likely to do is convert that to a slide or another image and ask them what's going on in the image. Picking the image or the slide or the movie segment that shows exactly what went on in the lab, and then see whether or not they can answer the appropriate technical questions about the material. And I find that they generally can.
Now, we've avulsed the flow again. See, now it's heading over this way because there's a pile of junk over there.
I always get high marks on organization of the class when they fill out the form, but verbally they will tell me that the class seems unorganized. And I think that by the end of the class they realize that they've been manipulated throughout, that there is an organization there, but it's much more difficult to have organization where you allow local control and transient control to the students on a constant basis, yet always be back there watching, thinking, planning what will be the outcome. So I think by the end of the class they realize that it has been organized, but during many of these sessions they seem delightfully disorganized. And I think that's part of the key, because that's what play is all about. It's a spontaneous, delightfully disorganized engagement. And clearly you can't teach many skills that way, but you can certainly teach earth surface processes that way.